Hey, Charles Robinson, who was the team and who was the MFer? Just go ahead, like once and for all. Who was it? I know you know who it was.
Okay, I do have a theory on this. I cannot say that I know for sure, but I think I have a pretty solid theory on it. I don't think it was Jimmy Garoppolo, and let's start there, and I'll tell you why. Number one, Tom
he would have signed
Smart.
with the Niners.
That was my pick. That was my pick.
Here's the thing. Tom's smart. He knows what he's doing, and he knows. I think number one, he knew that was something he wanted to say, and he knew that when he said it, it was going to be something that we would all jump on. And I think, frankly, he probably, if he really thought it through, it was going to be something that would always be asked. Now, from this point forward, we will always wonder, who was it and who has the right answer? And if Tom won't give it, we're going to spend, forever when we talk about the Tom Brady legacy. Who is he upset about at the end when before he ended up in Tampa? In all my time, I have never heard anyone tell me that Tom has referred to Jimmy that way. It's a remarkably disrespectful way to refer to a player. It's a remarkably disrespectful way to refer to a client of your agent's. They share the same agent. They had a relationship. They were in a quarterback room together. And even from when Tom was in the quarterback room,
they kick it at the Kentucky Derby.
They kicked it at the
Derby together, for crying out loud. Yeah.
And look, even when Tom, I think, wanted Jimmy elsewhere, I think that was because he felt like this is a situation where there are two roosters in the hen house. I'm here, like, you got to make a decision here. I don't want to feel like you're always sort of sitting there and looking at this guy as perhaps maybe my successor, obviously for good reason, because Tom still had Super Bowls left in him. So again, I think it goes down to, I've never, ever in all the time that Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom have shared the league together, ever heard Tom being disrespectful in that way. And I've heard that they do, as you said, kick at the Kentucky Derby. They do have a relationship. I think it was the Raiders, and I think it was Derek Carr. And the reason why I think that
100%.
is because the Raiders, I think people don't understand, when this all started with Tom in free agency, the Raiders were a very big, when you talk to people who were close to John Gruden, they were a very big part of this mix. And I had people tell me who were tight, extremely tight with Gruden, long-term, career, overlap with Gruden. John wants this guy. It's going to be the Raiders. They're going to go all in. This is it. And I think that's something that Tom's camp heard early on. And also John was waffling on Derek Carr. Like, from the point that John got there, he was back and forth on Derek Carr, what he wanted Derek to be, whether Derek could be that, all these different things. And everybody knew that. And so I think Brady knew that. Brady's camp knew that. So the thought process was that the Raiders were going to be there at the end and be a realistic option. I think when they weren't, that's when Tom's like, seriously, after all this, this is how I processed it.
The giveaway,
after all this, you're sticking
right. The giveaway was looking back, I'd have never signed with them. That was the giveaway. They check all the boxes. They were interested, and then looking back, I never signed with them because they're the one franchise that was also interested, that reeks of not being able to get out of its own way, if not out and out dysfunction on the highest levels. Michael, I want to ask both of you guys this question, because Brady said a lot in both the shop appearance and the Late Late Show. Michael, you and then Charles, I want to kind of get both of your thoughts. What was the most interesting thing y'all thought he said? This obviously had people going on a wild goose chase to connect the dots. But Michael, what was the most interesting thing you heard from Brady in the past several days in media appearances? And then Charles, you give me your best takeaway from Brady.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I would say, before I answer that though, I'm going to tell you, Charles, I need you to Google Bernie Mac on F-bombs. You say, it's a disrespectful, way to talk to somebody.
Depends on the context, yes.
It depends on the context. He's in the barbershop. He's in the barbershop. He's just talking like, I don't think he means it.
He fit in well.
It's kind of like, this dude, I can't believe you stick with him. Anyway.
It's the modifier.
I would say it's the most
mother effer. It's the mother effer. I mean, look, man, you can say effer, but you say mother effer, and I'm like, there's a modifier that adds some spice to that word.
Not really, Charles.
Context.
Hey, Charles, Accept our
okay.
representation on this. Accept our
I'm with
just
you.
accept
All
our
right.
representation on this.
I will
Trying to help you.
listen, that's good. I'm learning things. Let's keep going.
Trying to help you. No, I'd say his 90% comment, it's not necessarily surprising, but it's almost like the real Tom Brady mixed with the Patriots Tom Brady. Of 90% of what I'm saying, I don't really believe, and that's how I roll. But I'm really thinking I'm gonna F him up. Like hearing Tom Brady say, I'm gonna F him up. What? Like, I know Brady is cocky. I know Brady talks trash. I never heard that Tom Brady before. And it's intriguing. I wasn't offended by it. I'm intrigued by it.
No. I wanted to ask you that question, Charles, because I saw your joke went over some of your Twitter followers' head. I got it. I got the movie. I got the joke. Okay. So anyway,
Everybody thinks I'm calling the end. I know they're thinking I'm calling the end of Tom Brady's career. I'm like, read the tweet that's under my tweet so you understand the joke, but it doesn't. I'm like, how does this have 1,000, 1,500 likes or whatever? I'm like, it's because people think I'm calling the end of Brady's career. Okay, so I'm glad, Michael Holley, that you brought that up because that flows into really what I took away from this, which was I think that there's an element of Tom now that is really starting to come out. And the element of his personality that the Patriots exit was necessary. And I remember the first time I heard him do the Howard Stern interview. And I remember I was listening to it for the first time, sitting in my car, and I was like, whoa. Like he just kept saying stuff, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is not something I think would have happened inside, the Patriots regime. And Tom is starting to feel himself a little bit here, and go ahead and let some of it come forward beyond just what's on his social media accounts and whatnot. But the mother effer comment, the F him up comment. I think I asked. It was interesting because I had just had a conversation with an ex-Patriots personnel man who now is with another team. We had a long conversation about elite quarterbacks and the things that the two phases of those personalities, the public-facing phase, and then the things that teams see these guys, what they do in practice. And he said to me about Tom, he was like, it's funny. All these things we would hear about Peyton in his career, about how he would rip guys and go after guys. And then like when he was in Denver and Brock Osweiler was starting and Peyton Manning's like flipping off Gary Kubiak on the practice film because he's pissed off that he hasn't been reinstalled as starter, all these things. He said to me about Tom, he's like, you should have been there in practice when, you'd see a young wide receiver would drop a pass and Tom would freeze him out the rest of practice and dog cuss the dude. And just like, he's like, and he kind of related to Michael Jordan, where he'd be like, now we see the Scott Burrell thing and we see all these things where Michael Jordan was putting this intense pressure on players. He's like, Tom has that. Like he has this intensity and level of trust with certain guys. And when he doesn't trust you, he will absolutely scare the living hell out of you. And I'm like, as he's now sort of coming near the exit, we're starting to see some elements of Tom, the feistiness, the competitiveness, not just what we see in NFL films on the sidelines, but sort of like Tom can be a scary dude to play with. Like, and it's not just being in awe of him. It's not just the aura of playing with the GOAT or whatever. It's also like, if I screw up, this dude is going to light me up. And people might not know that about Tom, that he would light guys up. I think we're starting to see a little bit of this in Tom as he starts to exit. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell people how the edge. That is the perfect way to put it. Yeah. Tom has more of an edge than I think people realize.
Yeah. We saw the Super Bowl with Matthew.
And I love the way you say it, Charles, as he comes to the exit. I mean, think about it. Dude is going to be 44 in August. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about this in his age 44 season or year, as opposed to his age 34 or 24. Yeah. Like all the stuff, we're getting this in his 40s. I mean, it's really amazing. But when you think back, it's like watching, fellas, speaking of movies, it's like watching like one of those M. Night Shyamalan movies where, he tells you at the end all the stuff all the obvious clues that you missed.
Right.
And we had Tom Brady, Rodney Harrison called him a gangster. He was on film in like 2004 saying, boy, I'm the best punter on this team, practice film. He's talking trash to his teammates. Damian Woody called him a cocky SOB. Like, he told dudes they couldn't cover. In his emails, remember the Deflategate dump where we got all the emails? And in one of the emails, he's ripping Peyton Manning saying, he's got 2 years left. What about me? I'm so much better than Peyton. So we got all this evidence, but it took the shop for us to say, oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing this for a long time.
I think
is it just the form? Is that what it is, Charles?
Yeah, I think that he is. It was interesting because I did another media appearance and the host brought up Kobe and how, like, at the end of Kobe's career, he just started saying what he wanted to say. Like, he was just like, hey, I'm the best, I'm it. I'm the guy. And I'm just gonna say what I want to say. I'm gonna be honest about what situations are, and I'm not gonna worry about what people might think about that. And to me, it's funny because in the wake of Kobe, we talk about the Mamba mentality and all this stuff, and we forget that it was something that developed over time, the totality of it. Like, there were always hallmarks of it and that competitiveness, but these particularly super elite level players are not fully formed creatures until the very end. And I think the reason why they're not fully formed creatures in their competitiveness until the very end is because at the very end, they start to truly grasp their own accomplishments. And while they might not be out there constantly saying I'm this or I'm that, you get comfortable with being like, I don't have to demur, or I don't have to be, deferential when someone says you're the greatest to ever do this. I can just be like, all right, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and let that marinate because I'm not going to disagree with that. I am, and I'm okay being in that and living in that and being that guy. I think that we're seeing him being offered platforms and put in positions where he can go ahead and say, yeah, you know what, I'm better than that guy. Like, I don't have a problem saying that. Like, it's just who I am. It's how I got to where I am. And as a grown man, I can be an adult and say that and not be afraid that I'm going to be put in media jail or people, you just don't care about the judgment anymore. And I really truly feel like part of that boundary for him was deciding what he wanted to do with the remainder of his career and to play in Tampa and what was important to him. And I'm telling you, I just remember that Howard Stern interview and listening to the when he had just gotten out of, New England, he was with Tampa, and he was saying things, and I was just like, man, I don't know. He's saying some stuff here that, or engaging on some things here that felt very unfamiliar. And I was like, I wonder if now we're entering this chapter where he's going to go ahead and be like, all right, I'm going to be me. And I'm going to go ahead and not worry anymore about playing it safe.
You just used the word judgment. You just talked about playing it safe. Dovetails into a final question for you because we up against the break, so we don't have a whole lot of time. And we can really spend the whole show on it, whole town hall on it. And to be honest with you, Charles, I hesitated to ask you about it because I want to do my small part in normalizing it because it shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah.
But while we were gone, we saw a landmark development in professional sports, in society, but specifically in the NFL, when it came to Carl Nassib coming out as gay.
Yeah.
And it was received well across the board, but I'd just be fascinated to know what the reaction has been within your circle of sources throughout the league. Because I don't want to, again, I wanted to just not even address it because that's how it should be. But that would, to me, diminish the courage that it took for him to do this. So I'd love to know what the reaction has been before we let you go from your sources.
Yeah, I mean, like I tweeted out something about, hey, there are players, executives, scouts, coaches that are gay in the league. Like as we've all covered the league, there are certain guys that we know, like it comes up in conversation or whatever. And you're just like, okay, and no one's. It's just not. It becomes something that is not. It is normalized where you're just like, all right, well, moving on. Like let's get back to what the league is. I think that what is interesting about this, since a lot of it's been talked about from Carl's perspective, I'm really hyped. Not only for Carl to be able to live his life and, I guess as the league put it, live your truth. But I'm hyped for the league because it gives the league finally an opportunity to, and I'm not saying that in some corners of locker rooms, the stereotypes won't still hold, that there won't be guys that are uncomfortable with this. But I am a firm believer, having covered the league long enough, that a number of guys in the locker room don't care. Like they're like, if a guy can ball, like that's what we care about. Like, can you come in, do your job? Can you, are you gonna have my back? Are you gonna support me? Are you gonna be able to not let us down in key moments? And it's not a big deal to guys in locker rooms. And I think the league has needed also an opportunity for someone to do this, so that players and coaches and individuals can come out and go, yeah, all right, like let's just go ahead and move on. Like what? Like it's not this big earth-shattering thing inside locker rooms, and it's not gonna splinter teams or freak people out or create all these problems. Now, again, do I think that are there going to be fractions of that? Sure, I do. I think that in whether it's politics or gender or all kinds of different things that we talk about, and you have a rainbow of a locker room, there can be fractions of the locker room where it becomes something divisive or whatever. But in by and large, the part of this that I think is underplayed is now the opportunity for the league itself and players in locker rooms to come out and go, you guys are making a big deal out of this, and the truth is, for the majority of us in here, what we care about is performance. Like, this dude come out and ball out, awesome. Like, that's all we care about. Yeah. And we can move beyond going, oh, it's just a bunch of Neanderthals who they can't have this and they're not going to put up with this. It's good for the league to have an opportunity for guys to actually reveal themselves for what they really are, which is accepting and open and okay and fine with people being who they are and happy for people being who they are. That actually exists in the NFL. And I think now we get an opportunity to actually see it and showcase it a little bit through other players reflecting off of Carl.
No doubt. Charles Robinson, we appreciate you, brother, man. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.